You're listening to Mortgage Lending Mastery. Get the knowledge you need to advance your mortgage practice quickly and efficiently from Jen Du Plessis, America's mortgage mastery mentor with over 37 years of experience and over $1 billion in lifetime fundings. Jen has been mentoring loan officers and realtors for over 15 years and speaking on stages across the globe. So settle in and get ready as Jen and her guests share their experience, passion, and strategies to help you crack the top producer code to reach new heights in your business. And now, here's your host, Jen Du Plessis, mortgage mastery mentor and head chick in charge of Kinetic Spark Consulting.
Hey there, you. Welcome to this edition of Mortgage Lending Mastery. I am so excited today to have back a guest that we had several years ago. In fact, Karen, I don't even know how many years ago it was. I'd have to say at least 4 or 5. I'm coming up on 12 years with this podcast, January 1st. So I lose concept of time all over the place, but I have with me Karen Briscoe. She is ironically from my neck of the woods. We're both in Northern Virginia. And we think we met in a Northern Virginia Association of Realtors. We both had books and we said, hey, we need to talk. Right. And so anyway, let me introduce you just briefly. I'm not going to do her whole bio because we'll have that in the show notes, but she's the creator of the 5-minute success concept, and she regularly speaks on a national and local level on this concept of the 5-minute success. Further, she's the host of the weekly 5-minute success podcast, for which we're going to do the recording tomorrow for that, where she shares just with her amazing guests, about achieving success at a high level in business and in life, which is just right up both of our alleys. That's what we're both trying to achieve. She's the principal owner of the Huckabee Briscoe Conroy Group, which is part of Keller Williams, located in McLean, Virginia. And she's been recognized by Wall Street Journal as one of the top 250 realtor teams in the United States. So welcome back. We're so excited to have you back. I love when we do these sort of reruns.
I know so much has happened. I think it was when my book was published, which was 2016. I think.
Oh, well, then there you
that
go.
was about
Yeah.
2016 or 2017. So it's been 7 years at least since we've had this opportunity to visit. So, and I always love pod swaps too. So
I do too.
Side of the mic, have a conversation.
Yeah. Oh, I do too. Yeah, I think they're wonderful. So, all right, well, going back to, we have to kind of go way back. We're not going to regurgitate the podcast because I don't even remember what we said at that, but, you've obviously been in the real estate space for some time, and it goes without saying, we're in a real rough patch right now for both lenders and realtors, in our industries. But, let's talk about your tenure and your success, and then what led that to putting the 5-minute, success steps together, or the success concept together. And then from there, we'll talk about what's going on moving forward.
Absolutely. So I was started out in dirt in commercial real estate in Dallas after college, and met my husband, and we had our 2 children, and his career took us to the Northern Virginia area, the DC in public policy. About 30 years ago. So it was a little while. And then I was actually the primary caretaker of our children. My husband was the primary breadwinner. And I was glad to do that. I still felt like there was something more that I was called to do. And so when I re-entered the full-time paid workforce, my son was like late elementary school. And so I was out of the workforce for, a good 14 years. And I went back into commercial real estate thinking that was, my calling. And I had the Nextel account for Roger Staubach, and we had the sales engineering warehouse offices. And the reason why this is important is because I found it to be very boring. I was like, wow, you do one sales engineering or warehouse office, you've done them all. So it was actually right around the tech bust. And that's important because in technology, they were in disposition mode, and there isn't any money in disposition mode. And so I was looking around, and a friend of mine said, well, why don't you try residential? And honestly, at the time, there was I had this perception, there's a lot of people in commercial think that, we're all, the residential side's all fluffy.
Right,
and
right, right.
emotional and people's, but what I found was, for me, it combined both sides of my skills. So the hard, what some people refer to as the hard skills, the market knowledge, strategy, the financial side of it, with the relationship side. And I really, really did find I love people. So, and working with people on, what is in most cases their largest financial decision. And I became successful really fast. And because there are a lot of women that go back to work and
Right.
estate agents, but not everybody achieves at the level that I did really fast. And that was recognized, was noticed. And so in the HBC group, the H stands for Huckabee, Sue Huckabee. So at the time, she was number 10 in the nation. And so I was on her team, and in 06, she asked me to become her partner. And in 08, I took over the business. In 08 was also when the financial markets crashed, and she died the same month.
Yeah, I remember.
Which is very sad. It was a very, very challenging time. I mean, we're talking about now, in relative speaking, the crash of 2008 was, really widely felt by a lot of people.
Still felt, I think.
People still remember the muscle memory. And so because I was in real estate in Texas, I had been been around during the savings and loan crisis. And so I had some muscle memory from that. And I
had muscle memory from that too.
So the good news is I made some changes pretty rapidly, and we came out of that on the other side. And my current business partner, Lizzie Conroy, joined me in 09, and we set about rebuilding the business. And so what would happen is, people that I was either coaching or speaking or training, they want to know how I did it, because, well, first of all, the number of people who survived and thrived after the crash, but I had the added situation of my partner passing, and then bringing on another partner. So lots of things to share. And so that's how that phase, or part of my story, came about. And when I was coaching and speaking and training with people, invariably I would hear people felt like they didn't have enough time. And so to break down that as a resistance, which I believe is what it is, because everybody, as you know, has the same amount of time. So what makes one person able to achieve a lot and another person doesn't? And so I said, well, do you have 5 minutes a day? And what that does is applies what's known as Parkinson's law. So Parkinson's law says, when you limit, restrict something, then you often can have more impact. And I use the example of, when you're ready to go on vacation, how effective and efficient.
Right. If you give anything as much time as it needs, and it'll take as much time to accomplish.
Take that time. And so that really stuck. It really resonated with people. And so that's what led to the 5-minute success concept. And
I love that.
Journey has been a whole nother story. That's where we arrive at where you and I met.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're both, I think, at that point. I don't even know when my book came out. Maybe then. I guess I'd have to look at it. I mean, I have a little over 20 right now, so I don't know which ones come out when. So, I think all coaches and speakers, not all, but a large majority of coaches and speakers are the result of the success that they had, the path that they walk, which is why I don't like people to call themselves coaches, because a coach knows the game, but not necessarily has played the game, whereas a mentor knows the game, right? And so as a mentor, you've walked the walk, you had the success, and then everyone wanted to know, what's the secret sauce, to be able to do it. And, and you've come up with something that's, pretty incredible, the 5 minutes. And I've shared it with some of the people I coach, everybody, right? Doesn't have to be mortgage, doesn't have to be realtor, it can be anybody, but any business owner. But for my realtors, I've always sent them your book, every single time. And I just sent it to one of my clients, Joe Lorenzo. He's down in New Orleans, and he used to be a cop. now he's, so we've come up with some really cool stuff for him. He's your law and order realtor. That's
There
what
you go.
he's the law and order realtor, and he has a Miranda rights for your realtor. You have the right to choose your own realtor if you
Oh, I
decide
like
to give up
that.
that right. Yeah, we did some Miranda
Very
rights. It was so funny.
Yeah.
So I digress, but yeah, we had some fun putting that one together. But yeah, it does come from this, from this secret sauce. So before you wrote the book, and I guess you were hearing everyone saying, hey, I just don't have time. I don't have time. Had you already implemented these 5-minute segments, or was this a result of, wait a minute, I think I know how to do it because I can take all the things that were successful and how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Pull it apart so that everyone could feel like they could eat this elephant that I'm about to train them on. Is this the compilation of all the things that you put into play to make yourself, to have your, or gain success, not make yourself, but, get to your success?
I really didn't have the idea in the beginning. So I had been writing a blog, and I had, been published on Realtor Magazine and
Yeah.
Inman and some of the other top realtor sites. Yeah. And so I felt like my voice was more to the real estate professional rather than the consumer, although
Right.
he could read it and still learn a lot. And so first learning who my avatar was, who my voice was one of the key aspects. But I had an epiphany. Well, actually I had 3 epiphanies in a row, all in the fall of the year. I was in a women's coaching group, and for about 9 months, and we went away on a retreat, and the idea was to come up with one concept you were going to focus on the retreat. And I had kept, putting off the book. I had the classic, I don't have enough time or money, reasons why I wasn't writing my book. And I was at this retreat, and the last day we were to share what was stopping us from doing what we said we wanted to do.
Yeah. Where are you stuck?
And that was my first epiphany was, and the ladies that were there still remember it like this light bulb moment, like they could see my face, like my change. And the epiphany was the only one stopping me was me, because I'm self-employed and I have a very supportive spouse and business partner. And that was really huge, because until then, I thought something else outside of me had to change in order for me to be able to accomplish what I wanted in my life. And when I realized that I had that control or power decision-making, I felt so empowered. So then my brain was like, okay, well then how do I do it? Because that became what I was trying to solve for, was, okay,
Right.
so I still have the same amount of time. I still have the same amount of responsibility of running a mega team. And so I was reading a book by Gretchen Rubin. She wrote on happiness. And in the Happiness Project, she had a similar thing. She was studying why people weren't happy, or why they weren't doing what they said would help them be happy. And she realized it was habits would help people make change. And so I picked up one habit in the book called Better Than Before. And that was the time hack of daylight savings time. So this happened to be in the fall of the year. And I used that daylight savings time hour to get up an hour early to write. And this is very common hack. The thing is if you're sitting here going, oh, I have to wait till next October, you really don't, because you time hack your body every time you travel, time zones.
Yeah, time. Oh, believe me, I know.
You could decide to do this at any time, right?
Yeah.
And then the third epiphany was the idea of that came from Elizabeth Gilbert's book called Big Magic. And that book is about when ideas come to the artist, and artistry is in a lot of different forms, not just
right.
When an idea comes to you, if you don't do it, then if the idea's time has come, then it will likely go somewhere else. And I know you've had this happen too, or your listeners.
Yeah.
Where you had an idea and then you saw somebody else do it.
Yeah. And you're like, dang it.
Yeah, I could have done that.
I could have made that $5 million. Yeah.
And so that was really the last epiphany, or that was so significant. And because my idea was, there's a lot of real estate books. So my idea was, if the book was in a format that was more user friendly, where
Mhm.
it would be what I call a daily reader, which has been very popular for motivational and
Yeah.
religious literature for
Yeah.
eons. But to do it in a business book, because what I found also about my avatar, real estate professionals or sales professionals, is they get really excited about something new, and then they do it for a little while, and then they,
Yep. Shiny object. Yeah.
squirrel come out. I'm like, oh, well, this will be different every day. So there will
Mhm.
be a motivation to see, well, what's tomorrow's reading, and with a takeaway to put in application. So
Mhm.
when that piece came together, was that I felt like I had,
Yeah, nothing could stop you. And
yes,
and what I like about the book is that, there are practical tips on being a listing agent, practical tips on being a buyer's agent. And then there's like, I'll call it the foo-foo, or the mind, it's not even mindset. It's just more like, do some self-care. Did you spend time with your family? There's all kinds of things that you have in there. It's not all practical, but I love that you also teach so that people can apply, and you don't make assumptions that someone understands how to calculate price per square foot, for example. And so you're sharing how to, calculate that, and then how do you apply that to your sales process? And then here you go, here's your next step. It's funny because in my book launch, How to Take Your Business to New Heights, my first book, I at the end of every single chapter, I have, here's what you got to do. You got to
Mhm.
take action, because that book was originally called something I can't say on my podcast, but it turned into Stop Talking, Take Action, Get Results, and then turned into Launch. And I find that putting that application there is really important. How, from the feedback perspective that you've gotten from the book, and then I want to go on to some other stuff, but is it from the feedback perspective that you've gotten from the book, are you giving people enough time to apply? Have they found that they need a little more time to apply, or that they put it in a parking lot and go back to it and apply or execute on the tasks that you put together?
Well, that's what I found is one of the brilliant things about it, because it's basically one page, so it's short
Right.
enough that
Every
somebody
page, every day.
can
Yeah.
digest it. And
Yeah.
then what often happens, because if you have information and you don't, like you said, you aren't have a way to apply it, then you're less likely to be able to remember it. And so because it has, sticky aspects to it in terms of story and application, I found that people say, oh my gosh, I remember, entry October 12th, and it was this, and then I applied it later. And I'm like, that is to me, because, if you have a book or any kind of
Yeah,
training
it's everything. Yeah.
and you don't remember it when you need it, then it doesn't add a whole lot of value. So that has been a key aspect to it, because many books, real estate books or business books, are very textbook like, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. So
Right.
having a different delivery method has
Yeah.
had more impact.
Yeah, I think it's great. So looking back on it, what would you, if you were to come out with a revision, or what do they call it? An adjuncture. I don't know what they call it. A comma, comma, and here's some more that you can apply. What are some things that you've learned that you would apply to your book?
Well,
Maybe
so it
going
actually,
deeper in one or adding more,
yeah, so it actually has happened that way. It was my publisher who said, okay, this is really interesting to have something different every day, but there has to be some sort of structure that is, a format that applies universally. And I was like, well, this is a structure. Everybody needs to lead generate. So commit to lead generate and commit to get leads. And then that's got core principles around it. Then there's consult to sell. So that's, some people call it conversion, but that's how you take the lead and make it.
Consultative selling. Yeah.
And then there's connect, build, and grow, and that's scale, leverage systems to go on to the next level, like the launch. And then there is what you refer to as, some people think is foo-foo, but the whole idea of the success principles of
Mindset. Yeah. It's
thinking,
mindset.
activities, and vision. So each one of those are sprinkled throughout. And so what I have done, because some people said, oh my gosh, it's such a big book. And I'm like, well, you're only supposed to read a page a day, so it's not a big book. But
Right.
it was like, what some people want to just wanted to focus on lead generation. So there's a 66-day challenge. Lead generation book, there's a 66-day
Oh,
challenge.
good. Yeah.
Book.
Yeah.
But the one that I think, really resonates with what you're, where you are in your life, and I am too, is the book that came out of my signature talk at Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning event. The last one he did before the pandemic, the last one he did, period, but the 2019. And that is about time, being an author where your book title is Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day, people invariably start wanting to talk about time and what many people call time management. And what I found is it really isn't management, right? And so the talk I did, which was kind of like a TED talk, was the idea to flip time, flip the Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid. So like and particularly the pandemic, if you remember, like the physical needs, people were really focused on that, like toilet paper, the basic needs. Then you have,
the grocery store.
the grocery store, the physical needs. Then you have security, safety needs, again, very hyper focused during that time. And these are human needs. And then you have the relationship needs, then you have the esteem needs. And what I found is that some people run out of time. They're working their way up a pyramid and they may not have enough time to focus on esteem needs. But what happens is if you flip the pyramid and you focus on that first, then your relationship with yourself is going to be, more in alignment, your relationship with other people. And what I also found is your safety and security needs are being met because you're being, in tune with what, you were.
Oh, you are, because you're more aware and you'll say no to more things. You have the courage to say no to clients and others, who are pulling and tugging on you. Yeah. And it's funny that you say that because, not funny, but ironic that you say that because so many people, I know a lot of people who work out in the evening and not during the day, right? Or in the morning. And I think that's fine. I mean, if you can get to it, that's great. But I do think that, what you're talking, I call it priority management. I never call it time management. I call it priority management. I do have time block within the time, but it's priority management. What are your priorities? And this also gets back to the big boulders and then the big rocks and the big whatever. And, it goes all the way down to the pebbles and the sand and then the water. And you just have no room. If you have all this water in a cylinder, you have all the water, there's no room for anything. If you pop a big rock in, all the water splashes out, so nothing gets done. So, it's just priority management. So I think that concept is, really, really good. I love that part of it. What is your favorite, if you can remember all 365 days, but what is your favorite concept when you think back on, writing a chapter, a day, and you say, gosh, I just nailed it on that one. That one's so important. I hope, can we put a star on this page from the author?
Oh my goodness. Well, when there's 365, there are so many. I think that, one of them is when you're looking at the lead generation component of it. And you mentioned that time blocking. What I found is effective for me is activity blocking. What I find is when agents and it isn't just real estate, but
no, it's everything. Yeah.
Everything,
yeah. You
right?
compartmentalize equal activities. Yeah.
What it came out of our daughter who had learning disabilities as a young child. And she would go to a tutor, we'd pay for her to go to a tutor, and she would leave the tutor and not have done any homework. And she was just very effective at the time passing, but not anything actually accomplishing. And so we found a tutor who said, "Oh, we have a homework club. So we come and we do our homework, and the homework club's over when your homework's done." And that really worked for Kelly because the resistance that she had put up was, I will just figure out how to do everything but. And so in terms of activity blocking, I say, okay, figure out how many lead generation contacts for your success for the business that you want to build, and then focus on making those contacts. And then in whatever amount of time that it takes to do that. Some people are very efficient, effective, and some people need more time. But the idea is then you have something to track. So because it related to my daughter, it's one of the ones that I noted.
Oh, I totally understand that. Yeah. And I think compartmentalizing too, I mean, so often, I actually call it plan and review. I call it plan and review. I'm planning and reviewing, what went right, what didn't, and I'm planning ahead. But when I do this, for example, just to share how we're sharing this with our listener, right? Is every 3 days I do a plan and review, and in those plan and reviews, there's a different topic. So it might be technology, it might be a PowerPoint presentation, it might be writing, right? An article or something. It might be writing a speech if I'm doing something like that. It might be a grinding activity that I can't stand to do. But I mean, it might be marketing, it might be doing videos, but I don't have activities in each one of these every 3 days. It says, today I need to do 3 videos, and I need to call 5 people, and I need to do a PowerPoint, and I need to do this. I have it specifically broken out so that I'm compartmentalizing.
Yeah, so you're like batching.
Yeah. And, it just makes all the sense in the world. So yeah, I think that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know that we'll have the link for everybody to be able to grab the book at Amazon and get that. Are you coming out with an app? So that someone can swipe, sort of like Truth Bombs, right? The Truth Bombs app, every day you get a new Truth Bomb.
Well, it is available on Kindle, so it is pretty easy to read on Kindle. There is a 5-minute success journal. I would have been, amazing if I had come up with it, but I do like the 5-minute success journal. It's not mine. I found out about it because of Hal Elrod. So part of the Miracle Morning is journaling.
Yeah.
That has been very powerful.
Scribing. Yeah.
Scribing. He calls it scribing out.
Yeah.
And so the nice thing about the app version, they have the printed version as well, but you have 3 things you're grateful for in the morning, and then 3 things you're going to accomplish during the day, and then you have your affirmations, and then at the end of the day you reflect on the 3 things that that you accomplished or that you were meaningful, and then you can also share an observation of something maybe you would do differently or that you want to focus on in the future, and then include a photo. And so I'm at, like, I don't know, 1,000+ days, and I have a photo journal, if you will, of my life. And I mean, I know we have photos in our phones too, but this is different because every day you curate a photo.
Yeah.
And so I feel like
it tells the whole day. Yeah.
It does. And I really think that so I didn't invent it. I don't get paid for it, but I do feel like it's a very, very, very
complimentary. Yeah, complimentary. So it's a great, gift to give to people. I love that. Yeah, Hal's been on this podcast too, so you guys can listen to that. Yeah, listen to that.
He that really changed my trajectory. So up until the book, I like to say, the things my book gave me, because people were like, oh, in terms of book sales, yes, I've made money and I've met people, but really the main thing is the people I've met. That's what's been so amazing. And Hal Elrod was one of the first ones. He endorsed my book right away as part of the Miracle Morning routine. And I was part of his mastermind while you had the mastermind before. And so his Miracle Morning really changed my morning. It really did, because prior to making that decision to get up early to write my book, and then that led to meeting Hal, I, had just a boring morning. But now, as often as the case, because of
well, God puts people in front of us that we need to meet. I mean, the same something similar happened with Les Brown, the same type of thing. I mean, I fought tooth and nail to go speak at an event. I wanted to speak there. I did not want to pay to speak, and I said, fine, I'll pay. I was worried about everything, all the money, etc. And as soon as I spoke, Les came up to me and said, hey, I'd like for you to be on my speaking faculty.
Wow.
Right. And you're like, okay, stop fighting destiny, right? It's there. Just stop fighting it. But and I think that's what happens. Okay, so let's talk about this as it relates to today's market, because you're talking about the Miracle Morning, and there's a Miracle Morning for real estate agents too. There's a separate one. It's sort of like when Michael J. Mayer put out 7 Levels of Success. And he wrote the foreword to my book. and so then he finally came out with, 7 levels for real estate agents as well, because he's a realtor. Makes sense. And yeah, I know, it's funny. So when we think about what's happening in today's market, and I was just speaking about this I've been on like 4 podcasts in the last 8 hours. And I'm talking about what's happening in the market now, and how, what do you say to people that are really struggling, both realtors and loan officers. Loan officers are quitting and leaving, the business. Realtors are leaving the business. And I said, I don't know. I do know what to say to people, but this is not the place for it. But, we are heading into winter, and both you and I live in this cold climate. It's snowing right here where I'm at now. And, the tendency every winter and during the holidays is to hibernate rather than hyper focus and prepare for the next year. And I find that it takes forever for people to get the traction that they need. And it doesn't really happen until March or April. And then there's the spring market. And then you didn't do what you should have done last year at the spring market because you forgot about how busy it was and that you meant to do this and meant to do that. So how do you incorporate your 5 minutes, or it's not even your book or the Miracle Morning, but what are you doing to stay focused, intentional, knowing that some days, and a lot of days, more than not, the actions that you're taking aren't breeding the results that you're used to seeing them breed. So how do you deal with that? How do you talk to people about that who are in our respective businesses?
Well, I do think that the industry is under a lot of disruption. And so I want to acknowledge that because it's impacting a lot of people's lives. That being said, there has been a lot of disruption in the industry, ever since I started in dirt 40 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
And so, I think this is, my 5th recession, and then government shutdowns and,
crisis,
Dodd-Frank Act and tax reform and a pandemic. And so I have found that when I focus on, and what you focus on expands, I focus on the fact that there are still people always, every market, that are buying and selling houses. And so I really focus on the life events that will precipitate somebody buying and selling a house.
Yeah.
So I know some people use the D's, but I do like the D's, and in terms of remembering, in case you want to go back and focus on why people buy and sell houses. But in many people start their life cycle of housing, living in a home, growing up in a home, but then many people either go away to college or they go out into the workforce and they get their own home. If they go to college, we call that the D's, the diplomas. Sometimes they get a dog. Then they need, different housing. Oftentimes there's diamonds involved and people get married or they start living together. And then when you see diapers coming along, I'm telling you, they're the most motivated person. It's a pregnant woman. And then, they often are expanding their household. And oftentimes they're starting to make more money. And so usually they're expanding their house. And then at some point they get to the top of what I call the life cycle of housing. And then other life events often happen. There could be divorce, there could be death, there could be downsizing, and then there's or debt. There's things that people are going to buy and sell houses regardless. I think there's an incredible opportunity in the market. The baby boomers were the largest generation ever. 79 million. Yeah. And they birthed the largest generation of millennials that
are buying now,
that are 90 million plus in the United States. And many millennials delayed their household formation years because they wanted to travel or whatever. And then
they saw what happened to mom and dad in the credit crisis.
They did. But they, and then there was a pandemic and many of them went home, but now they are creating household formations. And in fact, I was talking to someone the other day. I was like, of all the young adults I knew that went back home during the pandemic, all of them are out on their own again. Yeah. And many have married. In fact, the statistics are that the number of people turning 65 in the last 2 years, I need to pull the chart up so I say it correctly. Because people that are turning 65, they're starting to hit another level, but there's been 7 million over the last 2 years. The other interesting thing is there's been 7 million births in the last 2 years. There have also been 4 million deaths and 3 million marriages and 1.5 million divorces. So I just gave you all the reasons why people buy and sell houses, and they're going to do that really no matter what, right? Because those are life events. Now, do we have to get creative and resourceful? Yes, I believe that that is true.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, there's plenty of opportunity out there. There's plenty of opportunity out there. And it's just a matter of finding the people who have the need.
And I love that you're saying this. I actually said this on a podcast earlier today, is life events, you know, that no matter what happens, you know, people don't say, oh, don't die. The rates are high. We don't have enough houses. Can't get married because we don't have enough this. I can't have a baby. I can't inherit anything. I mean, people don't stop their lives. Now I get it. There was a period of time when people who wanted to get divorced were staying in the house because they were upside down and couldn't do anything. I get that. But generally, you know, these life events are critical. And I've talked about that too. You know, one of the sayings I say is be ready for when the when happens.
Yes.
And you know, I think that the challenge that many people in these two industries have is they're used to picking up the phone and getting instant results. You know, going to a networking event and meeting someone and getting instant results. And they always have business coming in. How do you stay motivated when you do those activities and don't see the results?
You know, I've had that happen in my business too, so I certainly can relate. And so there's one thing I do is I double time. So again, I track activities. And if I'm not seeing the results I want to see, then for a month, maybe I'll double time until I can get the momentum
hyper
back.
focus. Hyper focus, don't go hibernate. You know,
so we have a lot of business in the pipeline for the first quarter 2024. 2023, we're closing out at the same level of production as we did 2022, because my team and myself, we lead generate all the time. Like there is no stopping lead generating. It is our focus, and it's from a position of service. We find where the needs are and we focus on how we can serve those needs. And so that has always served me well in every market. Like I said, 5 recessions. And, you know, I started out, I have to share a story. So I was telling you about Sue Huckabee. So she started residential real estate in 1977.
Yeah.
Do you all know what interest rates were in 1977?
Well, Well, I got in 83 and they were 18.5.
Yeah. So her husband at the time was a congressman. So she went to him and she said, Jerry, when are you going to do something about changing interest rates? And he said to her, Sue, when are you going to learn how to sell houses no matter
in
what
any market?
And that has always stayed with me. So when I started saying, oh, but it's this and this and this, and I'm like, well, Karen, when are you going to learn how to do it in this market? When are you going to learn how to do it with government shutdown? When are you going to learn how to do it when there's a pandemic? When are you going to learn how to do it when
there's a big lawsuit going on, right? You just have to put the blinders on and do what you do. You know, and I'm sure that that's helped you avoid the peaks and valleys, that you end up having nice, you know, smooth. And you may get down to a low point, but it's not a valley of death, right? It's not that valley.
I don't want to get there again.
You always want to keep something
kind of
going.
Slippage, then I start double timing. We start doing some other activities that increase.
And being ready for when the win happens. All right. So let's talk about, as we finish up our time together, let's talk about what's happening. Because here's what I've been suggesting to my students, my clients who are loan officers, realtors, not business people as much, but in this particular market, there are a lot of people who have thrown in the towel. They're done. I'm done being a lender. I'm done being a realtor. This is the last one. I can't do it anymore. I'm done. I'm out. There is a huge opportunity there. If you've been orphaned, by your
true.
last lender, if you've been orphaned by your real estate agent, if the real estate agent has been orphaned by a lender themselves. There's a lot of orphaning going on right now. And I think for me, it's the perfect time to adopt adopt a client from another loan officer's, database. So for example, if you had a loan officer that decided to leave, all the deals that you gave to them could be given to another loan officer to help serve them, because I promise you, that loan officer was working with them when those rates were starting to creep up or were creeped up and we're at 9, and that client's going to want to refi and they have nobody to go to but the servicer. And so here we go, problems again, right? And so it's out of your control. Same with the person who said, well, I want to sell my house, but my realtor, I can't find them because they're gone. And,
Yep.
for you to be able to do
Actually,
that.
I've got 2 clients right now, that exact same thing.
Yeah, it's
I was the listing agent, and they're
buying.
no longer in the business.
Yeah.
They also said, I see what you did for the client, that was a seller when we bought. We want you to do that for us. And so, yes, there's a great opportunity. In fact, many times market share is increased at times of market contraction, because,
Yes.
and I would just say that if somebody, is thinking about leaving the business, it is a business. And so it is something that is, that's why, it's work, and we get paid to do it. If it's, your time to retire, I mean, there are many agents that are aging out. And so find someone, because this could be a great opportunity for you to set up some sort of, perhaps referral agreement or something. So, but the opportunity of the people who, as focus, as you said, are still going to be there, because again, we've had multiple market cycles, multiple market conditions. I can't think of all of them, that can happen and have happened. And so the people who are creative, resourceful through those type of conditions are the ones that are going to go beyond just surviving.
Oh, I think so too. And, I hear people saying, oh yeah, but this is the worst and it's the longest and I mean, it's just another cycle. And I don't mean to, lighten anyone's, despairing load that they have financially. I certainly get all that. But, one of the things that I learned a long time ago is just to put the blinders on and do what I do. And when the opportunity comes, I'm going to have many more opportunities on the table. And I won't be leaving money on the table either when I'm prepared and ready for that. So I love that. And, and again, I have a lot of my loan officer clients going and talking to realtors and saying, hey, has your lender quit the business? Because I'd like to adopt your business. How can I help you? What can we do? And so I think that that's a great opportunity too. So because we are experiencing a life event of our own.
Well,
and we need to find out what needs are there so we can serve them.
That's true. And I think that what I found is, when I come from a spirit of service, then people are recognize that, that their needs are going to be met. Then oftentimes they're more open to that, receiving that. I feel like if you're coming from a place of desperation, or like, oh my gosh, I gotta, get this deal, or I can't, survive, then, maybe it is time for you to consider another profession, because it is something that requires some ability to ride through these.
To ride through it. Yeah, no question. No question. Yeah, great words. What a counsel, I don't like advice. What counsel would you give to those people that are, so, for the person who's listening, whether it's a real estate agent, an investor, a mortgage person, because I have all of them, plus business people, but generally those 3 categories, what counsel do you have for them as we close up our time here today? What would you like to leave us with?
Well, I have found that if I can do it, you can too. So I would hope for you that my message that I have been through multiple market cycles, and I've been through multiple situations, and that, if it can be done by one person, it can be done by you as well. You may have another way of doing it, but I believe that you will learn, grow, and become better than before in this situation as well.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Absolutely great. Okay. Best way for us to get in touch with you.
So It's actually, you Google my name, and I think I have the whole first page.
Good.
So obviously the books are on Amazon, Real Estate Success in 5 minutes a day. And then I have the other 3 books that are up there as well. And then the podcast is the number 5-minute success. And be sure and tune into that because, like I said, we're going to be having a pod swap here soon. And then there's a website. If somebody's interested in visiting with me or working with me, I do offer a 30-minute consult. So there's a way to go onto the website and schedule a time to visit with me to see if that would be something that would be a good fit for you.
That's awesome. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, again, Karen, thank you so much for visiting back with us. I'm so glad we had you on the show again, just so that you know, for you listening, is that, about a year after we have someone on the show, we invite them to come into something called Beyond the Podcast. It's a Facebook Live, it might even be YouTube Live, YouTube and Facebook Live, where we just catch up with them. It's sort of a where are they now? But I felt, talking with Karen, I said, get Karen back on the show again, because we really need this topic. And we need to hear it from a real estate perspective as well. So I appreciate you coming on, and I love what you're doing, and continue to, make those changes for people and impact people in the world. I think it's wonderful, wonderful to hear. So thank you so much for being my guest today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jen.
Absolutely. So for those of you listening, again, thank you for taking time out of your busy day. Please take a moment and scroll down, give us a great 5-star rating, and then write something beautiful about what you heard from Karen. What was one thing that you took away from what you heard from Karen, so that she can look at those reviews, because we all have the ability to do it, to look at those reviews and say, so that's what resonated with them. I'm going to remember to talk more about it. So it's a learning thing for us, and we appreciate all the time that you do. And again, pay it forward. Share this with someone else who could learn from this as well. So thanks again for listening. We'll catch you next time on Mortgage Lending Mastery.
Thanks for listening to Mortgage Lending Mastery. Be sure to subscribe to hear more sales tips, ideas, strategies, and tactics to help you with your personal and professional growth to multiply your results in record time. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to give us a rating and review so we can continue to bring you the best content possible. Wanting more beyond the podcast? Join our Mortgage Lending Mastery membership community, where you will find extended interviews with our favorite guests, weekly training, tips, and insider secrets, fireside chats with Jen, free content, meet, share, and collaborate with other members, and so much more. Click the link in the show notes to learn more about this exclusive content. Mortgage Lending Mastery is an Industry Syndicate charter podcast. Industry Syndicate is the first podcast network specifically for the mortgage and real estate industries. Get the Industry Syndicate app in the App Store or Google Play today.